Hey, hey, family. Hey. Listen, I told y'all come rain, sleet, or snow, technical difficulties or not, your girl would be on. I was going to figure it out a little late today, but guess what? We got it going on. I think the production team that used to be over at Tabitha Brown's house, it's over here in my house. Um, Production just don't want to act right. I had to talk to him this morning, get it together, reel him in, and here we go. So it is your girl. It's your girl. Hey, happy Friday. It's Friday. It's Friday. Ain't nothing like the weekend, honey. Nothing like the weekend. But you know what? I'm trying to live a life where every day is the weekend. I want to feel like every day is the weekend. That's what I'm trying to get to, honey. That's what I'm trying to get to. Look, did you see the piece? Just the thought of it, the piece that comes over my mind. It's your girl. It's your girl, Michelle Franklin, Miss Michelle D.I. herself. Why D.I.? Because I don't believe in coincidences. Only God's divine intervention in our lives. So grateful for this day. So grateful for the opportunity to be here, to be around some beautiful, beautiful spirits, to be walking in purpose. That is what I do. I'm a community builder. What does that mean? That means that I bring information. Information that normally people won't talk about. Information that is uncomfortable. Information that is necessary for you to be the best version of you, honey. I do this to the core of me. That's who I am. I'm a community builder. That's what I am. That's what I do. It's not for everybody. Everybody can't do it. But that's why your girl is here, honey, because I'm going to say the things that need to be said. I'm going to do the uncomfortable things. I'm going to do the fun, happy, loving things, but I'm going to do the things and say the things that are necessary to get you to where you are supposed to be. Why? Because your girl did the same thing. Yeah. Hours upon hours of studying and years upon years of working on myself. And then you know what I did after I worked on myself? I'm like, man, everybody needs to understand these concepts. Everybody needs these things. This is good stuff. Your girl's not stingy. I want to share. I want to share what I find out. I'm going to share it with you. It's who I am to the core of me. That's what community builder means. Who I am to the core of me. Best believe it wasn't even like I just gave this to myself, guys. I literally took a test. Literally took a test. And you know how most people say, oh, I'm an influencer, I'm a this and that. I thought I was just an influencer. I'm like, that sounds great, you know. But community builder encompasses all of the things. And that is very rare. Your girl's a rare breed. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm here in these streets, walking in purpose, doing what I'm supposed to do. Because God won't let me sleep otherwise. Honey, got so much stuff for us to do. So listen, this started with me a few years ago, 2019. I was so disgusted with myself, guys. This is not like a just because. I promise you I didn't just pull this out the hat. I was so disgusted with myself. I was sitting in such a place of complacency, in such a place of darkness, in such a place of Lord, I'm just tired. My girlfriend Kiana called say sick and tired of being sick and tired. You sick and tired of being sick and tired yet? You ever looked at yourself like, what is going on with you? What's wrong? What happened? What you doing? That's where I was. That's where I was. I had to get very intentional about my life. I started fasting. I started just praying, Lord, just show me, just guide me to the people that can help me. And it's something miraculous about when you ask, right? That's why we're doing this thing called faith walk. Because some people are like, what are you talking about? It is, honey, when you just be still and you just ask, when you just have the nerve, when you just have the gall, when you grow some kahunas, honey, to just ask God, Lord, I need your help. I can't do this by myself. And then trust and believe that he's going to do it. That's faith. That's faith. Mine started back when I was younger, watching my mom go through and endure some crazy when we was little, moving and moving after her and my stepdad divorced, moving from place to place. We moved every year, y'all. We moved every year. And nothing to, combat my mom. It's just, she just wasn't making enough money. She wasn't, able. Everybody's, doing what they had to do, doing what they needed to do. And I thank her for that because, even though she didn't have as much as she had when, of course, there was a 2-parent household, um, she was doing what she felt like and what she could do with the best that she had to do it with, right? That's all you can do sometimes in situations that you in. I'm doing the best that I can do with what I have in the situation I can have. But I'm here to disrupt, the thought process of complacency. Just because you are where you are does not mean that you have to stay there. It doesn't mean that's your forever, right? That's what faith is. That faith is a substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. It means even though I can't see it, I know I'm not supposed to stay in this crazy. Even though I don't even know how I'm going to get out of it, I know I'm not supposed to stay in this crazy. Faith walk. I've been talking about it the past few days. So some of you know, some of you will learn. My nephew passed away a couple of weeks ago. And in the process of the helplessness of it all, driving back that first time when I left my brother's house, looking at my brother and the pain that he was in, looking at my nieces, and knowing that the grief and everything that was to come, because I've been teaching about depression, anxiety, and panic attacks and PTSD and grief for a few years now, right? I've gotten very intentional about it. Every time the Lord shows me something, I'm like, oh, because I've endured it. And I endured it not knowing that that's what I was going through. And so now I'm very intentional about teaching people, man, if you're feeling this, if you see this, if this is what it is. But in that situation, driving back that first night, your girl is a fixer. And there's some things in this life that are going to come that you just can't fix for people, And in this situation, I knew I'm not going to be able to fix this. I couldn't fix it for him. I couldn't fix it for my nieces. I couldn't fix it for myself, for my mom, for my brother. For, you know what I mean? You can't fix some things. It's some things that we go through in this life that sometimes you just got to let everybody else's hand go. And you got to walk that thing. You got to walk through it. It's a part of life. Things are going to come. Storm clouds are going to come. Darkness is going to come. And what do? You keep walking, boo. You keep walking. Even when you don't feel like, oh my God, it's so dark. I'm so tired. When is it going to be over? That is the golden question. When is it going to be over? Keep walking. I don't have no answer for you. I can't tell you when it's going to be over. If you know, like I know, grief will come and go. You'll be feeling fine years down the line and you'll see something. But the one thing that I do know for sure, because of that thing called faith, you know that it's going to get better. You know that along the journey in the darkness, you are picking up tools. You're picking up tricks. So the next time that some darkness comes, the next time that storm comes, put up an umbrella. You might still get wet. Stuff might still be spattering on you. It's not going to keep you. You might not be dry the whole time, right? You put a poncho on. Right? Your feet going to get wet. but you're a little more equipped to handle the situation. That's what I know for sure. That's what I know for sure. And so it is, you going along that journey and believing, knowing that soon it will be over. So this month of May, we're walking in faith in our finances, faith in relationships, faith in situations, faith in forgiveness. We talking about it all month long. But I wanted to start with finances because our finances is one of those things that, like, I didn't even realize that my finances or lack thereof at different periods of point in my life affected me so much. But that's one of the number one things. It's one of the number one causes for divorce, right? I got married. I got married at 18. And one of the things that I remember fussing over the most was our finances. We were young. We were broke. We didn't have the same concept of how to get things done and how to pay for things. We just wasn't on the same page because you know what? We never talked about it. And I think that's one of the things that happens with all of us in situations, in situationships, in relationships, in friendships, in marriages, in just your mom and your dad. We don't communicate. We don't talk. It's not comfortable. I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to say that, oh, I'm thinking it, but it might be too much. That's what we do, right? That is what we do. And so the lack of communication, even to ourselves, right? And when you are talking to yourself, are you talking more positive or are you talking negative? Do you hear the positive things about yourself? No, not so much. When somebody tells you you're beautiful, you bring me joy. You light up my life when you come in the room. Oh man, I love your laugh. Can you take a compliment? Those things you blow off. Think about it. You you blow those things off. But when somebody's like, Michelle, I don't like your hair like that. I don't like your earrings. Oh, girl, you looking fat. Oh, girl, this. Oh man, you talk too much. You do this and that and third. Don't that seem to come back and replay over and over and over in your mind? A little louder and a little more. Why is it that we hold on to the negative things? Right? We hold on to the negative things. I mean, like it's gold. Why? That's why I'm here to combat the crazy, to combat all the negative, to let you know and to tell you. Look, I gotta turn my phone off. To let you know and to tell you. I feel like it's good and there's evil in this world. And the negative in this world, the devil is real. And the devil is busy. And he will have you on speaker, loud, with all that negative in your ear, whispering, all that negative in your ear. I say, pluck his ass off your shoulder. Pluck him off your shoulder, right? It's a good angel. And it's an evil angel on your shoulder. Have y'all seen that in the movies? That thing is real. Why does the bad angel always win? And why am I saying bad and angel? Because the devil was an angel, honey. He was up in heaven. He got kicked out. He got kicked out for a reason. All that negative, demonic thinking. Get up out of here. Devil, you're under my feet. You got to go. I need you to understand that there is some hopelessness. I feel like that's what happened with my nephew. There was some hopelessness in his mind where he processed things where he wasn't thinking clearly. When hopelessness comes on you, the thoughts of hopelessness, you think that you have to handle things alone. You think that there's nobody in your corner. It's so overwhelming, your problems, the things that you've gotten yourself, whatever. Whatever it is, there is a hopelessness that happens to all of us. How do I know? It doesn't discriminate. You could be the wisest. You could be the most richest person in the world, but guess what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't discriminate. The feelings of grief, the feelings of depression, the panic attacks, the insomnia, the feeling alone. It doesn't discriminate. And it's so loud sometimes. It will have you believing. And so I need you to know and to understand. I call it a mirage. While you're walking in darkness, all you're going to see is these mirages just popping up like this is all it's going to be. It's not. Keep walking. I promise you, keep walking. Keep walking. Okay? Keep walking in your finances. I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I'm however years old and I should be making this much amount of money and I should be doing this and I should be doing that. And I don't get this opportunity because I'm stuck in this job and I got this and that and the third and these kids and blah, 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 blah. Any situation that you're in, guess what? You have a choice. You have a choice on whether you stay stuck in the situation or whether you make a decision to get your plan together. Let me show y'all my shirt I have to wear today. That's Herbert Berry Jr. Herbert Berry Jr., that's my stepdad. He passed away back in 2015. He used to say, plan your work and work your plan. Since I was little, that was his mantra. Plan your work and work your plan. You're never too old. The rich, they have had money, lost money, had money, lost money, and back to being billionaires. You know why? Because they're putting one foot in front of the other. They understand the concept that this is not going to kill me. It doesn't matter what's going on. It doesn't matter how much money I have. I'm never poor. Might be broke, but poor is a mindset. That was chapter 1. That's why we're reading Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad this month. This is the number 1 finance book, it says, of all time. It's celebrating 25 years. The definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting a different result. So guess what? If you want something different for your life, try something different. You've been doing checking and savings and everything and all that stuff. And sometimes you got stuff in your savings and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're broke and sometimes you're not. What are you doing? It's time to do something different. It's time to learn from somebody. If you want to be somewhere, you want to do something. I feel like Sister Act. If you want to be somebody, if you want to go somewhere. Wake up and pay attention, baby. That thing came all over my spirit. Sister Act. Yes. If you want to be somebody, you want to go somewhere, you got to wake up and pay attention, honey. Pay attention to what other people are doing. Pay attention to the people that are where you want to be, right? Mr. Robert Kiyosaki, at 9 years old, 1956, said he had a rich dad and a poor dad. It resonated with me because I had 2 dads. I've had multiple dads, but I got 2 dads, right? When I was 9 years old, I had 2 dads. My biological father and this man, Herbert Berry Jr. that, poured into me and gave me, different ways and different ways to think about things. He's the one that said, if you want to do something, you can do anything. You can do anything. If you want to go somewhere, all you have to do is just plan it out. You don't have to have all the money up front. Make you a plan. If I know I want to take my kids to Disney, dang, that's a lot of money. Okay, how much do I need to save in order to get there in 6 months in June? If I start in January, if I start next year, if I know my baby's doing this or doing that, how can I plan that thing out? Not I can't do it. How am I going to do it? How am I going to be able to accomplish this? What do I need to do in order to accomplish it? That's a different conversation with yourself. So Robert Kiyosaki's dad, Rich Dad, had 6 lessons that he taught him. We already covered lesson 1. We did the study in the book that covers lesson 1 as well. So today, we're moving on to lesson 2. Lesson 2. Go back. It's recorded. Watch the video. Put it in podcast mode because listen, everybody want a quick fix. Everybody want a quick video. Everybody want it to be fast. What can I say and how can I do this the fast way? I think that's part of the problem with the world today. We live in such a fast, quick society, and some things you have to slow down. You got to pay attention. In my 20s, I zoomed through life. Everywhere that I went, I was speeding. Oh my God, I'm late. I got to go here. Zoom, 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 zoom. I'm zooming everywhere that I went. In 2019, when I got intentional about my life and I said, Lord, help me, show me, he led me to a fasting group. In that fasting group, this guy, Christopher Aaron, and my big brother from another mother, Roger Chappelle, were facilitating the fast. And they were talking about eating different, right? Chris was talking about being a vegan lifestyle. Chris, just me. See my scrunched face? Chris. Mm-mm, mm-mm. I didn't join this fast to become a vegan. So that's where I was, right? Stuck in this mindset, trying to continue to live and do things when there was something better. Someone offered me information. I couldn't even accept it because I'm so tunnel vision in my thinking. I didn't come here for that. I'm only supposed to be giving and doing this fast. Like, I'm just trying to get through this fast. He was trying to teach me how to live after the fast, the long term. We want the short term fix, don't we? Oh, it's so much easier. It's so much nicer. Just give me the cliff notes. No. One thing, I'm about to be 46 in 9 days, y'all. And one thing that I have learned is some things are, shortcut is fine. You know what I mean? Some things, shortcut is fine. For me, I need a shortcut on the meal. Like, I don't need to have 20,000 steps to make a meatloaf. How can I use this onion mix and make it quicker? It's going to taste just as good, right? But some things, you got to take your time. There is a blessing in the lessons, honey. And sometimes you just got to journey through those. You just got to journey through those things, right? So that's what we're doing. Moving on. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Chapter 2. Lesson 1 was the rich don't work for money. Baby, you want to go back and check that out. Go to the YouTube channel. Scroll down the page, honey. Check them things out. We did the introduction. We did lesson 1. We did the study to lesson 1. We're moving on again. Lesson 2. Okay, let's go. Chapter 2, lesson 2. Why teach financial literacy? That's the name of the chapter. It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. All right, we're going in, page 61. In 1990, Mike took over his father's empire and is, in fact, doing a better job than his dad did. We see each other once or twice a year on the golf course. He and his wife are wealthier than you could imagine. Rich Dad's empire is in great hands, and Mike is now grooming his son to take his place, as his dad had groomed us. In 1994, I retired. I was 47, and Kim was 37. Retirement does not mean not working. For us, it means that bearing unforeseen catalytic changes, we can work or not work. And our wealth grows automatically, staying ahead of inflation. I got to get my pen. I keep losing my spot. Wait a minute. Our assets are large enough to grow by themselves. It's like planting a tree. You water it for years, and then one day it doesn't need you anymore. Its roots are implanted deep enough. Then the tree provides shade for your environment. Mike chose to run the empire, and I chose to retire. Whenever I speak to groups of people, they often ask what I would recommend that they do. How do I get started? Is there a book you would recommend? What should I do to prepare my children? What is your secret to success? How do I make millions? Golden questions, right? Whenever I hear one of these questions, I'm reminded of the following story. It's entitled The Richest Businessmen. In 1923, a group of our greatest leaders and richest businessmen held a meeting at the Edgewater Beach Hotel in Chicago. Among them were Charles Schwab, head of the largest independent steel company, Samuel Insull, president of the world's largest utility, Howard Hobson, head of the largest gas company, Ivor Kruger, president of International Match Company, one of the largest companies at that time, Leon Fraser, president of the Bank of International Settlements, Richard Whitney, president of the New York Stock Exchange, Arthur Cotton and Jess Livermore, two of the biggest stock speculators, and Albert Fall, a member of President Harding's cabinet. 25 years later, 9 of these titans ended their lives as follows. Schwab died penniless after living for 5 years on borrowed money. Insull died broke in a foreign land, and Kruger and Cotton also died broke. Hobson went insane. Whitmore and Albert Fall were released from prison, and Fraser and Livermore committed suicide. I doubt if anyone can say what really happened to these men. If you look at the date 1923, it was just before the 1929 market crash and the Great Depression, which I suspect had a great impact on these men and their lives. The point is this: today, we live in times of greater and faster change than these men did. I suspect there will be many booms and busts in the coming years that will parallel the ups and downs these men face. I'm concerned that too many people are too focused on money and not on their greatest wealth, their education. If people are prepared to be flexible, keep an open mind, and learn, they will grow richer and richer despite tough changes. If they think money will solve problems, they will have a rough ride. Intelligence solves problems and produces money. Money without financial intelligence is money soon gone. Most people fail to realize that in life, it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. We all heard stories of lottery winners who are poor, then suddenly rich, and then poor again. They win millions, yet are soon back where they started. Or stories of professional athletes who, at the age of 24, are earning millions, but are sleeping under a bridge 10 years later. I remember a story of a young basketball player who a year ago had millions. Today, at just 29, he claims his friends, attorneys, and accountant took his money, and he was forced to work at a car wash for minimum wage. He was fired from the car wash because he refused to take off his championship ring as he was wiping off the cars. His story made national news, and he is appealing his termination, claiming hardship and discrimination. He claims that the ring is all he has left, and if it was stripped away, he'd crumble. I know so many people who became instant millionaires. And while I'm glad some people have become richer and richer, I caution them in that in the long run, it's not how much money you make, it's how much you keep. For how many generations you keep it. So when people ask, where do I get started? Or tell me how to get rich quick, they often are greatly disappointed with my answer. I simply say to them what my rich dad said to me when I was a little kid. If you want to be rich, you need to be financially literate. That idea was drummed into my head every time we were together. As I said, my educated dad stressed the importance of reading books, while my rich dad stressed the need for financial literacy, the need to master financial literacy. If you are going to build the Empire State Building, the first thing you need to do is dig a deep hole and pour a strong foundation. If you are going to build a home in the suburbs, all you need to do is pour a 6-inch slab of concrete. Most people in their drive to get rich are trying to build an Empire State Building on a 6-inch slab. Our school system, created in agrarian age, still believes in homes with no foundation. Dirt floors are still the rage. So kids graduate from school with virtually no financial foundation. One day, sleepless and deep in debt in suburbia, living the American dream, they decide that the answer to their financial problems is to find a way to get rich quick. Construction on the skyscraper begins. It goes up, and soon, instead of the Empire State Building, we have the Leaning Tower of suburbia, and the sleepless nights return. As for Mike and me in our adult years, both of our choices were possible because we taught to pour a strong financial foundation when we were just kids. As for Mike and me in our adult years, both of our choices were possible because we were taught to pour a strong financial foundation when we were just kids. Accounting is possibly the most confusing, boring subject in the world. But if you want to be rich long term, it could be the most important subject. For Rich Dad, the question was how to take a boring and confusing subject and teach it to kids. The answer he found was to make it simply by teaching it in pictures. My Rich Dad poured a strong financial foundation for Mike and me. Since we were just kids, he created a simple way to teach us. For years, he only drew pictures and used words. For years, he only drew pictures and used few words. I can't read today. Mike and I understood the simple drawings, the jargon, the movement of money, and then in later years, Rich Dad began adding numbers. Today, Mike was gone to master much more complex, sophisticated accounting analysis because he had to in order to run his empire. I am not as sophisticated because my empire is smaller. Yet, we come from the same simple foundation. Over the following pages, I offer to you the same simple line drawings Mike's dad created for us. Though basic, those drawings help guide two little boys in building great sums of wealth on a solid and deep foundation. Rule number 1, you must know the difference between an asset and a liability and buy assets. If you want to be rich, this is all you need to know. It is rule number 1. It is the only rule. This may sound absurdly simple, but most people have no idea how profound this rule is. Most people struggle financially because they do not know the difference between an asset and a liability. Rich people acquire assets. The poor and middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets, said Rich Dad. When Rich Dad explained this to Mike and me, we thought he was kidding. Here we were, nearly teenagers, and waiting for the secret to get rich. And this was his answer? It was so simple that we stopped for a long time to think about it. What is an asset? Asked Mike. Don't worry about that now, said Rich Dad. Just let that idea sink in. If you can comprehend the simplicity, your life will have a plan and be financially easy. It is simple. That is why the idea is missed. I think this is priceless because we do want like some grandiose, big hole, whatever, right? But when things are so simple, you're like, is it that simple? Really? I don't know. It is simple. That is why the idea is missed. You mean all we need to know is what an asset is, acquire them, and we'll be rich? I asked. Rich Dad nodded his head. It's that simple. If it's that simple, how come everyone is not rich? I asked. Rich Dad smiled. Because people do not know the difference between an asset and a liability. I remember asking, how could adults be so misguided? If it is that simple, if it is that important, why would everyone not want to find out? It took Rich Dad only a few minutes to explain what assets and liabilities were. As an adult, I have difficulty explaining it to other adults. The simplicity of the idea escapes them because they have been educated differently. They were taught by other educated professionals, such as bankers, accountants, real estate agents, financial planners, and so forth. The difficulty comes in asking adults to unlearn or become children again. An intelligent adult often feels it is demeaning to pay attention to simplistic definitions. Rich Dad believes in the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. Or keep it super simple. So he kept it simple for us and that made our financial foundation strong. So, what causes the confusion? How could something so simple be so screwed up? Why would someone buy an asset that was really a liability? The answer is basic education. We focus on the word literacy and not financial literacy. What defines something to be an asset or a liability are not words. In fact, if you really want to be confused, look up the words asset and liability in the dictionary. I know the definition may sound good to a trained accountant, but for the average person, it makes no sense. But we adults are often too proud to admit that something does not make sense. On the side, there is a thing here that says an asset puts money in my pocket. A liability takes money out of my pocket. And that is simple. Just as simple as that. To us young boys, Rich Dad said, what defines an asset are not words, but numbers. And if you can't read the numbers, you can't tell an asset from a hole in the ground. In accounting, Rich Dad would say, it's not the numbers, but what the numbers are telling you. It's just like words. It's not the words, but the story the words are telling you. If you want to be rich, you gotta read and understand numbers. If I heard that once, I heard it 1,000 times from my rich dad. And I also heard the rich acquires assets and the poor and the middle class acquire liabilities. Because it's the 25th anniversary, he has extra little things. Look, where's my thing? You can't see it. I'm like, where's my camera? I can't show it to you, but it's extra little things in here on the side. So it says, timeless rich dad wisdom. Learn, unlearn. Drop my thing, sorry. Learn, unlearn, and relearn. This quote from futurist Alvin Tofer mirrors what Rich Dad told me 2 decades ago. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Excuse me. Here is how to tell the difference between an asset and a liability. Most accountants and financial professionals do not agree with the definitions, but these simple drawings were the start of a strong financial foundation for 2 young boys. This is the cash flow. So picture it's a box. It's a box of income statement. It says income and expenses. And the balance sheet says assets and liabilities. And under assets, there's an arrow that goes up to income. The top of the diagram is an income statement, often called a profit or loss statement. It measures income and expenses, money in and money out. The lower part of the diagram is a balance sheet. It's called that because it's supposed to balance assets against liabilities. Many financial novices do not know the relationship between the income statement and the balance sheet, and it is vital to understand the relationship. So, as I said earlier, my rich dad simply told 2 young boys that assets put money in your pocket. Nice, simple, and usable. This is the cash flow pattern of a liability. So, for liability, it is an arrow going up from liability and expenses, and it's going out. So it says, now that the assets and liabilities have been defined through pictures, it may be easier to understand my definition in words. An asset is something that puts money in my pocket, whether I work or not. Catch it? An asset is something that puts money in my pocket, whether I work or not. This is the difference, folks. This is the difference. A liability is something that takes money out of my pocket. This is really all you need to know. If you want to be rich, simply spend your life buying or building assets. If you want to be poor or middle class, spend your life buying liabilities. Illiteracy, both in words and numbers, is the foundation of financial struggle. If people are having difficulties financially, there is something that they don't understand, either in words or numbers. The rich are rich because they are more literate in different areas than people who struggle financially. So if you want to be rich and maintain your wealth, and the key word is maintain, because you don't want to just be rich. You want to maintain. You don't want to be part of those stories, right? It's important to be financially literate in words as well as numbers. The arrows in the diagram represent the flow of cash or cash flow. Numbers alone mean little, just as words out of context mean little. It's the story that counts. In financial reporting, reading numbers is looking for the plot, the story of where the cash is flowing. In 80% of most families, the financial story paints a picture of hard work to get ahead. However, this effort for naught because they spend their lives buying liabilities instead of assets. So again, a liability takes money out of your pocket. Is your car a liability or an asset? Hey, Zoe. The arrows in the diagrams represent the flow of cash or cash flow. Numbers alone mean little, just as words out of context mean little. It's the story that counts. In financial reporting, reading numbers is looking for the plot, the story of where the cash is flowing. In 80% of families, the financial story paints a picture of hard work to get ahead. However, this effort for naught because they spend their lives buying liabilities instead. I had to read that again because it is so real. It is so real. And so in the picture, it has income is your salary as a job, and it has the expenses arrow going. So you're paying taxes, expenses, rent, expenses, food, transportation, clothes. Liabilities. Again, liabilities takes money out of your pocket. Mortgage, car loans, credit card debt, school loans are liabilities. This is the cash flow pattern of a rich person. Income, rental income, dividends, interest, royalties. The expenses are their taxes and a mortgage payment. The liability is listed, the mortgage is listed under a liability. A lot of us see owning a house as an asset. The rich sees it as a liability. Huge difference. Liability, consumer loans, credit cards, all liabilities. We're working and earning and trying to make and get credit cards. We think that's an asset. We're shifting mindsets, guys. We're shifting. The definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again, expecting a different result. If you continue with this tunnel vision thought process that you've been having, if you can't be open to something different, you can't see what's over here and what's over there. Maybe something greater out there for you, right? Assets for the rich real estate, stocks, bonds, notes, intellectual property. Big difference. Big difference. All of these diagrams are obviously oversimplified. Everyone has living expenses, the need for food, shelter, and clothing. The diagrams show the flow of cash through a poor middle class and wealthy person's life. It is the cash flow that tells the story of how a person handles his or her money. The reason I started with the story of the richest men in America is to illustrate the flaw in believing that money will solve all problems. That is why I cringe whenever I hear people asking me how to get rich quicker or where they should start. I often hear, I'm in debt, so I need to make more money. But more money will often not solve the problem. In fact, it may compound the problem. Money often makes obvious our tragic human flaws, putting a spotlight on what we don't know. That is why, all too often, a person who comes into a sudden windfall of cash, let's say an inheritance, a pay raise, or lottery winnings, soon returns to the same financial mess, if not worse, than the mess they were in before. That's me. I'm transparent enough to say that has been my life. That is why I'm doing this. The up and down, the up and down, the up and down that happens with money. I'm like, I've got to do something different. I've had periods of time where I've had, you know, over some thousands of dollars in the bank. And I've had periods of times where I've had no money in the bank. I wanted to get consistently elevated. Not consistently here, but consistently elevated and where I'm not worrying. I've had periods of time where I've paid my rent up a few months, and I've had periods of time where I'm like, oh my God, how am I pay this rent? Oh my God, it's the first of the month, the rent is due. Right? Shifting, shifting, shifting. And it's not about a get rich quick scheme, right? It's about changing your relationship with money. What are you doing to change your relationship with money so that you're not in the same situations over and over again? Yeah, I'm okay now. Oh, I'm okay now. I ain't got to worry about that today. We're not thinking about today. We're talking about building and creating generational wealth. And generational wealth for me is way more than money. It is an abundance of love, joy, peace, happiness, foundation of faith and understanding. If you don't have those things, honey, you are poor. And there's a difference, right? There's a difference. I'd rather be broke than poor. You can come back from broke. Poor is a mindset. Poor is a mindset. So he said, more money will often not solve the problem. In fact, it may compound the problem. Money often makes obvious our tragic human flaws, putting a spotlight on what we don't know. That is why, all too often, a person who comes into a sudden windfall of cash, let's say an inheritance, a pay raise, a lottery winnings, soon returns to the same financial mess, if not worse than the mess they were in before. Money only accentuates the cash flow pattern running in your head. If your pattern is to spend everything you get, most likely an increase in cash will just result in an increase in spending. Thus, the saying, a fool and his money is one big party. I have said many times that we go to school to gain scholastic and professional skills, both of which are important. We learned to make money without professional skills. In the 1960s, when I was in high school, if someone did well academically, people assumed this bright student would go on to be a medical doctor because it was the profession with the promise of the greatest financial reward. Today's doctors face financial challenges I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Insurance companies taking control of the business, manage healthcare, government intervention, and malpractice lawsuits. Today, kids want to be famous athletes, movie stars, rock stars, beauty queens, or CEOs because that is where the fame, money, and prestige are. That is the reason it is so hard to motivate kids in school today. They know the professional success is no longer solely linked to academic success as it once was. Because students leave school without financial skills, millions of educated people pursue their profession successfully, but later find themselves struggling financially. They work harder but don't get ahead. What is missing from their education is not how to make money, but how to manage money. It's called financial aptitude. What do you do with the money once you make it? How to keep people from taking it from you. That's a big one. How to keep it longer. How to make that money work hard for you. Most people don't understand why they struggle financially because they don't understand cash flow. A person can be highly educated, professionally successful, and financially literate. These people often work harder than they need to because they learned how to work hard, but not how to have their money work hard for them. How the quest for a financial dream turns into a financial nightmare. The classic story of hardworking people has set a pattern. Recently married, the happily, highly educated young couple now share a cramped rented apartment. Immediately, they realize that they are saving money because two can live as cheaply as one. The problem is the apartment is cramped. They decide to save money to buy their dream home so they can have kids. They now have two incomes and they begin to focus their careers. Their incomes begin to increase. As their incomes go up, their expenses go up as well. The number one expense for most people is taxes. Many people think it's income tax, but for most Americans, their highest tax is Social Security. As an employee, it appears as if the Social Security tax combined with the Medicare tax rate is roughly 7.5%, but it's really 15%, since the employer must match the Social Security amount. In essence, it is money the employer can't pay you. On top of that, you still have to pay income tax on the amount deducted from your wages for Social Security. Income you never received because it went directly to Social Security through withholding. Going back to the young couple, as a result of their incomes increasing, they decide to buy the house of their dreams. Once in their house with a mortgage, they have a new tax called property tax. Then they buy a new car, new furniture, and new appliances to match their new house. All of a sudden, they wake up and their liabilities column is full of mortgage and credit card debt, and their liabilities go up. Remember, guys, a liability is what takes money out of your pocket. An asset put things in your pocket. So here's another little nugget on the side. Fast forward to today, taxes and entitlement programs. Taxes around the world are getting higher and higher as social demands for tax, and I'm sorry, I have in my Invisalign. That's why I'm like, what is different today? Sorry. Taxes around the world are getting higher and higher as social demands for tax dollars require higher property, income, and sales. and sales taxes. Higher incomes create even more of a bracket crept as tax rates become more progressive to pay for social services. Today, the government faces serious challenges as entitlement programs like Social Security and Medicare face insolvency. Still true today is another one, credit card debt. Today, based on 2021 stats, U.S. consumers' credit card debt is at an all-time high, $998.4 billion. Is it all bad debt or good debt? Do you know the difference? They're now, talking about the young couple, they're now trapped in the rat race. Pretty soon, a baby comes along and they work harder. The process repeats itself. Higher incomes cause higher taxes, also called bracket creep. A credit card comes in the mail. They use it and max it out. A loan company calls and says their greatest asset, their home, has appreciated in value. Because their credit is so good, the company offers a bill consolidation loan and tells the intelligent thing to do is to clear off the highest interest consumer debt by paying off their credit card. And besides, mortgage interest rate is tax deduction. They go for it and pay off those high interest credit cards. They breathe a sigh of relief. Their credit cards are paid off. They've now folded their consumer debt into their home mortgage. Their payments go down because they extend the debt over 30 years. Is it the smart thing to do? Their neighbor calls to invite them to go shopping. The Memorial Day sale is on. They promise themselves they just window shop, but they take a credit card just in case. I run into this young couple all the time. Their names change, but their financial dilemma is the same. They come to one of my talks to hear what I have to say. They ask me, "Can you tell us how to make more money?" They don't understand that their trouble is really how they choose to spend the money they do have. It is caused by financial illiteracy and not understanding the difference between an asset and a liability. More money seldom solves someone's, my belly's itching, sorry. More money seldom solves someone's money problems. Intelligence solves problems. There is a saying of a friend of mine using over and over to people in debt. If you find you have dug yourself in a hole, stop digging. As a child, my dad often told us that the Japanese were aware of three powers: the power of the sword, jewel, and the mirror. The sword symbolizes the weapons, the power of weapons. America has spent trillions of dollars on weapons, and because of this, is a powerful military presence in the world. The jewel symbolizes the power of money. There is some degree of truth to the same. Remember the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. The mirror symbolizes the power of self-knowledge. This self-knowledge, according to Japanese legend, was the most treasured of the three. All too often, the poor and the middle class allow the power of money to control them. By simply getting up and working harder, failing to ask themselves if what they do makes sense, they shoot themselves in the foot as they leave for work every morning. By not fully understanding money, the vast majority of people allow its awesome power to control them. If they use the power of the mirror, they would have asked themselves, does this make sense? All too often, instead of trusting their inner wisdom, that genius inside, most people follow the crowd. They do things because everybody else does them. They conform rather than question. Often, they mindlessly repeat what they have been told. Diversify. Your home is an asset. Your home is your biggest investment. You get a tax break for going into greater debt. Get a safe job. Don't make mistakes. Don't take risk. It is said that the fear of public speaking is a fear greater than death for most people. According to psychiatrists, the fear of public speaking is caused by the fear of ostracism, the fear of standing out, the fear of criticism, the fear of ridicule, the fear of being an outcast, the fear of being different prevents most people from seeking new ways to solve their problems. Guys, that is huge. Fear, we talk about fear all the time. I did not even know fear is so strong and is so in the subconscious. I did not even know it was driving my life for years. Years. Fear can be holding you hostage and you don't even know it. But we're going to get into that this month. I've done videos on it. Check my YouTube channel for it. My fear video is my favorite, most transparent video to date because, again, I just did not know. I didn't know it was holding me hostage. And so I share the 4 things and the 4 areas that fear can be holding you hostage, that I found out it was holding me hostage. Y'all check that out. Little box says a person can be highly educated, professional, successful, and financially illiterate. That's huge. And it's true. And it's very true. We are reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, by Mr. Richard Kiyosaki, opening up our minds to something different, because the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting a different result. What are you doing different with your finances? Why are you still in the hole? Why aren't you where you want to be? Are you doing the same things that you've been doing? Do you feel like your house is an asset? Mr. Kawasaki says if you have a house, it's a liability. What is the difference between an asset and a liability? An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money away. Something different. Something different. Another way to look at that thing. Continuing on. That is why my educated dad said the Japanese valued the power of the mirror the most. For it is only when we look into it that we find truth. Fear is the main reason that people say, play it safe. That goes for anything, be it sports, relationships, careers, or money. It is that same fear, the fear of ostracism, that causes people to conform and to not question commonly accepted opinions or popular trends. Your home is an asset. Get a bill consolidation loan and get out of debt. Work harder. It's a promotion. Someday I'll be a vice president. Save money. When I get a raise, I'll buy us a bigger house. Mutual funds are safe. Many financial problems are caused by trying to keep up with the Joneses. Occasionally, we all need to look in the mirror and be true to our inner wisdom rather than our fears. Let me read that again. Occasionally, we all need to look in the mirror and be true to our inner wisdom rather than our fears. Guys, I say this all the time. There is a God in you. There's intuition in you. There's those little whispers that you hear. I like to think of them as our ancestors, the people that have gone on that are leading and guiding my path, leading me the right way. It's my big mama. It's my dad, right? Now it's my nephew, leading and guiding. Oh, don't go that way. Oh, go over there. How many times have you been in situations and you thought to yourself, oh, dang, I probably shouldn't do this. and you do it anyway. End up being the worst thing ever. Why didn't I pay attention? Why didn't I listen? Man, something told me. We all have that thing. That indecisiveness, you allowing fear. Oh no, I'm not even going to do that. Oh man, I can't pay attention to it. Oh no, I can't do it that way because somebody's going to say something. Oh, somebody's going to think this of me. What is everybody going to think? It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to have to live with it. You don't want to have to look yourself in the mirror. And what I found is that some people can't even look themselves in the mirror. That's another conversation. We'll talk about it this month, though. Going on. By the time Mike and I were 16 years old, we began to have problems in school. We were not bad kids. We just began to separate from the crowd. We worked for Mike's dad after school on the weekends. Mike and I often spent hours after work just sitting at the table with his dad while he held meetings with his bankers, attorneys, accountants, brokers, investors, managers, and employers. Here was a man who had left school at 13, who was now directing, instructing, ordering, and asking questions of educated people. They came at his beck and call and cringed when he didn't approve of them. Here was a man who had not gone along with the crowd. He was a man who did his own thinking and detested the words, "We have to do it this way because that's the way everyone else does it." He also hated the words "can't." If you wanted him to do something, just say, "I don't think you can do it." Mike and I learned more sitting on his meetings than we did in all our years of school and college included. Mike's dad was not book smart, but he was financially educated and successful as a result. He told us over and over again, an intelligent person hires people who are more intelligent than he is. So Mike and I had the benefit of spending hours listening to and learning from intelligent people. But because of this, Mike and I couldn't go along with the standard dogma other teachers preached, and that caused problems. Whenever the teacher said, "If you don't get good grades, you won't do well in the real world," Mike and I just raised our eyebrows. When we were told to follow set procedures and not deviate from the rules, we could see how school discouraged creativity. We started to understand why our rich dad told us that schools were designed to produce good employees instead of employers. Occasionally, Mike or I would ask our teachers how what we studied was applicable to the real world, or why we never studied money and how it worked. To the latter question, we often got the answer that money was not important, that if we excelled in our education, the money would follow. The more we knew about the power of money, the more distant we grew from teachers and our classmates. My highly educated dad never pressured me about my grades, but we did begin to argue about money. By the time I was 16, I probably had a far better foundation with money than both my parents. I could keep read. I kept books. Excuse me. I keep books. I listen to tax accountants, corporate attorneys, bankers, real estate brokers, investors, and so forth. By contrast, my dad talked only to other teachers. One day, my dad told me that our home was his greatest investment. A not too pleasant argument took place when I showed him why I thought a house was not a good investment. Can you imagine your 16-year-old coming and telling you this? This is funny. The diagram above illustrates the difference in perception between my rich dad and my poor dad. So again, diaphragm, in the diagram, it has the house listed as a liability under the rich dad, and under the poor dad, it has it listed as an asset. Excuse me, I need to recite more. One dad thought his house was an asset, and the other thought it was a liability. I remember when I drew the following diagram for my dad, showing him the direction of cash flow. I also showed him the ancillary expenses that went along with owning the home. A bigger home meant bigger expenses, and the cash flow kept going out through the expense column. Today, people still challenge me on the idea of a house not being an asset. I know that for many people, it is their dream as well as their largest investment. And owning your own home is better than nothing. I simply offer an alternative way of looking at this popular dogma. If Kim and I were to buy a bigger, flashier home, we realized it wouldn't be an asset, it would be a liability, since it would take money out of our pockets. So here is the argument I put forth. I really don't expect most people to agree with it because your home is an emotional thing. And when it comes to money, high emotions tend to lower financial intelligence. I know from personal experience that money has a way of making every decision emotional. When it comes to houses, most people work all their lives paying for a home they never own. In other words, most people buy a new house every few years, each time incurring a new 30-year loan to pay off the previous one. Even though people receive a tax deduction for interest on mortgage payments, they pay for all their other expenses with after-tax dollars, even after they pay off their mortgage. Kim's parents were shocked when the property taxes on their home increased to $1,000 a month. They had already retired, so the increase put a strain on their budget. Houses do not always go up in value. I have friends who owe $1 million for a home that today would sell for far less. The greatest losses of all those from missed opportunities. If all your money is tied up in your house, you may be forced to work harder because your money continues blowing out of the expense column instead of adding to the asset column, the classic middle class cash flow pattern. If a young couple will put more money into their asset column early on, their later years will be easier. Their assets will have grown and will be available to help cover expenses. Making a decision to own a home that is too expensive in lieu of starting an investment portfolio impacts an individual in at least the following three ways. 1. Loss of time, during which other assets could have grown in value. 2. Loss of additional capital, which could have been invested instead of paying high home maintenance expenses. Number 3, loss of education. Too often people count their housing savings and retirement plans as all they have in their asset column. Because they have no money to invest, they simply don't invest. This costs them investment experience. Most never become what the investment world calls a sophisticated investor. And the best investments are usually first sold to sophisticated investors who then turn around and sell them to people playing it safe. That's terrible. That is terrible. I am not saying don't buy a house. What I am saying is that you should understand the difference between an asset and a liability. When I want a bigger house, I first buy assets that will generate the cash flow to pay for the house. My educated dad's personal financial statement best demonstrates the life of someone caught in the rat race. His expenses matches his income, never allowing him enough left over to invest in assets. As a result, his liabilities are larger than his assets. The following diagram on the left shows my poor dad's income statement. It is worth 1,000 words. It shows that his income and expenses are equal when his liabilities are larger than his assets. My rich dad's personal financial statement on the right reflects the results of life dictated to investing and minimizing liabilities. Why the rich get richer. A review of my rich dad's financial statement shows why the rich gets richer. The asset column generates more than enough income to cover expenses, with the balance reinvested into the asset column. The asset column continues to grow, and before the income it produces grows with it. The result is that the rich get richer. Remember, an asset makes you money, and a liability takes money away from you. Why the middle class struggles. The middle class finds itself in a constant state of financial struggle. Their primary income is through their salary. As their wage increases, so do their taxes. Their expenses tend to increase in proportion to their salary increase, hence the phrase, the rat race. They treat their home as their primary asset instead of investing in income-producing assets. This pattern of treating your home as an investment and the philosophy that a pay raise means that you can buy a larger home or spend more is the foundation of today's written society. Increased spending throws families into greater debt and into more financial uncertainty. Even though they may be advancing in their jobs and receiving pay raises. This is a high-risk living caused by weak financial education. The massive loss of jobs in recent times proves how shaky the middle class really is financially. Company pension plans are being replaced by 401k plans. Social Security is obviously in trouble and can't be relied upon as a source for retirement. Panic has set in for the middle class. Today, mutual funds are popular because they supposedly represent safety. Average mutual fund buyers are too busy working to pay taxes and mortgages to save for their children's college and pay off credit cards. They do not have time to study investing, so they rely on the expertise of the manager of a mutual fund. Also, because the mutual funds includes many different types of investments, they feel their money is safer because it is diversified. This educated middle class subscribes to the dogma put out by mutual fund brokers and financial planners. Play it safe, avoid the risk. I haven't eaten any breakfast, y'all. I feel like my sugar's dropping. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I should have ate some breakfast. The real tragedy is that the lack of early financial education is what creates the risk faced by average middle class people. The reason they have to play it safe is because their financial positions are tenuous at best. Their balance sheets are not balanced. Instead, they are loaded with liabilities, stuff that takes money away, and have no real assets, stuff that takes money in, that generates income. Typically, their own source of income is their paycheck. Their livelihood becomes interdependent on their employer. So when genuine deals of a lifetime come along, these people can't take advantage of them because they are working so hard. They are taxed to the max and are loaded with debt. As I said at the start of this section, the most important rule is to know the difference between an asset and a liability. Once you understand the difference, concentrate your efforts on buying income-generating assets. income generating assets. That's the best way to get started on a path to becoming rich. Keep doing that, and your asset column will grow. Keep the liabilities and expenses down so more money is available to continue pouring into the asset column. Soon the asset base will be so deep that you can afford to look at more speculative investments, investments that may have returns of 100% to infinity. $5,000 investments that are soon turned into 1 million or more. Investments that the middle class call too risky. The investment is not risky for the financial literate. If you do what the masses do, you get the following picture. And it's an income statement. It says work for the company, and then you have a salary under income. The expenses are the taxes that they take out working for the government. The liability is work for the bank. That's your mortgage. There are no assets listed. As an employee who is a homeowner, your working efforts are generally as follows. You work for the company. Employees make their business owners or shareholders rich, not themselves. Your efforts and success will help provide for the owner's success in retirement. Number two, you work for the government. The government takes your share from your paycheck before you even see it. By working harder, you simply increase the amount of taxes taken by the government. Most people work from January to May just for the government. Number three, you work for the bank. After taxes, your next large expense is usually your mortgage and credit card debt. The problem with simply working harder, is that each of these three levels takes a greater share of your increased efforts. You need to learn how to have your increased efforts benefit you and your family hierarchy, and your family directly. Once you decided to concentrate on minding your own business, focusing your efforts on acquiring assets instead of a bigger paycheck, how do you set your goals? Most people must keep their job and rely on their wages to fund their acquisition of assets. As their assets grow, how do they become the extent of their success? When does someone know that they are rich, that they have wealth? As well as having my own definitions for assets and liabilities, I also have my own definition for wealth. Actually, I borrowed it from a man named R. Buckminster Fuller. Some call him a quack, and others call him a genius. Years ago, he got architects buzzing because he applied for a patent for something called a goadistic dome. But in the application, Fuller said something about wealth. It was pretty confusing at first, but after reading it, I began to make sense of it. Wealth is a person's ability to survive so many number of days forward. Excuse me. Or if I stop working today, how long will I survive? Unlike net worth, which is different, which is the difference between your assets and liabilities, and is often filled with a person's expensive junk and opinions of what things are worth, this definition creates a possibility for developing a truly accurate measurement. I can now measure, and I know where I was in terms of my goal to become financially independent. Although net worth although net worth often includes non-cash producing assets, like stuff you bought that now sits in your garage, wealth measures how much money your money is making, and therefore your financial survivability. Wealth is a measure of the cash flow from the asset column compared with the expense column. Let's use an example. Let's say I have a cash flow from my asset column of 100 a month, and I have a monthly expense of 2,000. What is my wealth? Let's go back to Buckminster Fuller's definition. Using his definition, how many days forward can I survive? Assuming a 30-day month, I have enough cash for a half a month. When I achieve 2,000 a month cash flow from my assets, then I will be wealthy. So while I'm not yet rich, I'm wealthy. I know how income generated from assets each month that fully cover my monthly expenses. If I want to increase my expenses, I first must increase my cash flow to maintain this level of wealth. Also note that it is at this point that I am no longer dependent on my wages. I have focused and been successful in building an asset column, and that has made me financially independent. If I quit my job today, I will be able to cover my monthly expenses with the cash flow from my assets. My next goal will be to have the excess cash flow from my assets reinvested into the asset column. The more money that goes into my asset column, the more my asset column grows. The more my assets grow, the more my cash flow grows. And as long as I keep my expenses less than the cash flow these from these assets, I grow richer with more and more income from sources other than my physical labor. As this reinvestment process continues, I am well on my way to becoming rich. Just remember this simple observation: the rich buy assets, the poor only have expenses. The middle class buy assets they think are assets. So, how do I start minding my own business? And what is the answer? Listen to the founder of McDonald's in the next chapter. The last little nugget on here, and it says still reigns true today: wealth and cash reserves. Today, more and more people are living paycheck to paycheck with little buffer for emergencies or unplanned expenses. Another staggering statistic reported in a 2019 gold banking rates survey: 45% of Americans have no savings at all. Let me read that again. 45% of Americans have no savings at all. More and more people count on government assistance, which often leads to dependency. That is the end of Why Teach Financial Literacy. This has been chapter 2 of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There's so many nuggets in here. I'm grateful for this book. The biggest takeaway for me today is an asset puts money in my pocket, and a liability takes money out of my pocket. I'm going to say this. I'm yawning because I'm tired. I didn't eat breakfast. I should have ate some breakfast. My blood sugar is probably low. You got to take care of yourself. Before you start pouring into other people, you got to pour into yourself. And I did not pour into myself this morning. I jumped out of the bed. I was thrown off today because my baby girl is out of school, so I wasn't on my regular routine, and I slept longer than I was supposed to. And then I was in Clubhouse and blah, 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 and, so blah, 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 all of the stuff, right? All of the stuff that happens that can deter you or keep you from whatever your goal or whatever you said you was going to do. It is, oh man, well, I should have started. I didn't do this. Oh man, this and that. Let me just wait. And then you wait and 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 you find a month has passed, a week has passed, a day has passed, 2 months, 6 months, years have passed. Even if you're late, do it anyway. Even if it's not perfect, do it anyway. Do it anyway. Even if it's not easy, the road less walked. I'm going to walk that road each and every time. It is not about how easy something is. It's not about who's watching, who's not watching. I don't have the audience. I do have the audience. Somebody's going to say this. What are they going to think? None of the stuff. When you are walking in your purpose, as I know that I am, it does not matter if one person show up, 1,000 people show up, 100,000, or no people show up. You still do the work that God has called you to do. You have to. Because if you're worried about numbers and such and that, guess what? You'll never get it. You'll never get it. You'll never get it. And so my goal, my mission in this life is to break the stigma associated with mental health, associated with depression, anxiety, panic attacks, and PTSD in particular, because those are the things that have affected my life. Those are the things that I didn't even know. And so because I believe that I am you and you are me, if I'm going through it or I've been through it, that means somebody else out there is going through it and has been through it. And I believe as a community builder, this is who I am, all the way down to the core of me, that if I've gone through it, I'm a Romans 8:28, that thing, the good and the bad and the crazy are all working together. And so out of the tragedy and the hopelessness that I thought about the first time that I left my nephew, my brother, from my nephew's tragic situation, I thought, what can I do? I kept seeing hopelessness. There's still some people on this side of heaven that feel hopeless. And so I feel like if I just help one person, if it's only one person that's listening, if it's just one person that's paying attention, if it's just one person that's going to implement the changes to do the things that I've done my part. And a flock of sheep, Jesus is going to find the one. Everybody is relevant. You are relevant. You are necessary. You are needed. I don't care what it looks like. Please know that for yourself. I'm going to end with my 365 days of grief, prayers for grief, for the grief and the loss, because there's so many people out there grieving. And grieving is simply a loss of not just a loved one, a loss of that relationship that I saw myself in and I just thought was going to work out and be the end all be all, and I could be finished and I was going to find somebody that loved me and hold me and need me and want me. But it didn't happen that way. It's gone. It's grieving. You're grieving that loss. A loss of sudden death, or somebody happened, or something happened, right? A loss, people that have children that are home, empty nesters, grieve. What is my life like now? What am I supposed to do with all this time? Who am I? We spend so much time going and being and doing, working a job. We don't even know who we are. I didn't even know what I liked. I was in relationship with people that did stuff that I didn't even like. Why was I doing that? I'm not a smoker. Why am I messing with smokers? I like to kiss. I don't want to be fussing at you about your breath. Why? Do you know yourself? Do you know what you like? Right? And so we're talking about all those things this month, y'all. All those things this month. It is Faith Walk. Faith is a substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, knowing that down the line, God is leading and guiding me to something bigger, to something greater. I just can't see it right now, but I have faith. I have faith that my life is not just this. I have faith in my finances, that my finances is not just this. I have faith that whatever relationship that I am in, that it is going to get better. I don't know how it's going to get better because he acting a whole fool right now, but for some reason, I know that it is going to get better. That is faith. That is Faith Walk that we're taking the whole month of May. And today we are walking in our finances, picking up different tools, picking up tools from Mr. Robert Kiyosaki because he learned. Just at 9 years old, he started the lessons. He took the time. And that's what it takes, guys. It's not a fast track to anything. That is an illusion. Not anything worth it. Have you ever had food cooked fast and never then had something from a crock pot? Mm. You ever had some greens that were just stir fried and then the greens that took some time? Mm. You ever had something from coming from out the oven versus in the microwave? I'm telling you, fast is not always better, honey. We're gonna take our time and walk through this thing. And so this is the word of the day. Today is May the 5th, and it says always learning. Wise people can also listen and learn. Even they can find good advice in these words. That's Proverbs 1 and 5. The prayer goes, Holy One, I know that there is no end to your limitless love. Your compassion can be tracked back through time, but even then, who can find its beginning? You are faithful in kindness and always lead your people in wisdom. Today, I ask for a fresh dose of your insight. Speak into the areas of my heart that require it the most. I need your understanding. I want to see you. I want to see from your broad perspective, not my limited one. As I look to you, let me see the bigger picture where I have been hyper focused on the painful parts of my life. I ask that you would direct my gaze to where your mercy is. You find a perfect portion of peace for every circumstance of my life. Why would I rely on my own knowledge when you have all wisdom to offer? That's amazing. That is the faith walk, knowing that the Lord is going to lead and guide you even when you don't understand. Even when you just be open and then pay attention. Pay attention to the little things. Pay attention to the messages that come your way. But be open. So the question of the day is, what have you been trying to figure out on your own? What is it that you've been trying to figure out on your own? Guys, I do not read these beforehand. Whatever is coming through is divinely ordered. It's why I had to put that DI on the back of my name, because I got to show people that God's divine intervention in our lives, whether you believe or you don't believe, this is not about trying to get you to convert to Christianity or anything like that, because whether you believe or you don't, it's still present. God's divine intervention in our lives is still real. And even for the person that thinks, I done got all this way by myself, I don't believe in God. Guess what? I promise you, You had a praying grandmother. You had a praying grandfather. You had a praying mother. You got a praying aunt. Somebody is covering you. Yeah. Yeah. Somebody is standing in the gap for you. The oil flows, whether you accept it or not. You are still here for a reason. You have a purpose in you. Mr. Les Brown says you have greatness in you, whether you see it or not. Everything that you need, you already have. I spoke earlier about starting this fast when I was just so disgusted with myself, sitting in complacency, knowing that God had placed these gifts in me and I wasn't using them. And I said, Lord, it got to the point where I almost passed away, and I literally, I thought I was going to die, y'all. I was scared. And so I found myself in the bathroom praying like, Lord, I know I'm not supposed to go out like this. I know I'm not supposed to go out like this. Please give me another chance, Lord. I know this is not the end. I know this is not how my story ends. I was so scared. And I said, Lord, whatever you lead and guide me to, I'm gonna pay attention. I'm gonna listen. Because sometimes we just walk around thinking that we have all of the answers. And sometimes you just need to be still. And you need to learn. You need to look. You need to pay attention. You need to listen. Stop talking. I know you know everything. I know you think you know everything. It's always something to learn. Always something to learn. Pay attention. Listen. Be open. Right? Your change is coming. Hey, it's your girl, Michelle Franklin. Sitting up here walking in purposeness, Miss Michelle D.I., Miss Divine Intervention herself, Miss Community Builder. I will be back tomorrow because guess what? Every day, no weekends off. Every day. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. We're talking about our finances. We're talking about our relationships. We're talking about situationships. We're talking about forgiveness for the whole month of May. Yes, for the whole month of May, we're doing the faith walk. And we're starting off with Mr. Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad or Poor Dad, because our finances are one of the things that holds us hostage. If you've been doing the same thing over and over again, honey, it's time to do something different. Find another way. You can join me, read along with me. Go get the book, or you can listen. Put me in podcast mode, honey, and just listen. Take me along with you during the daytime. Go back and listen to the introduction. Go back and listen to day 1, to chapter 1. Go back and listen to the review of chapter 1. Go back, rewind this thing. Listen to chapter 2. Tomorrow we're going to cover, he has a review that he does of each chapter in between. So we'll be covering the review in chapter 2 tomorrow. What are the biggest things that you learned? He has questions. We'll answer them. That's what we're doing. I believe when you walk in your purpose, you will inspire other people to walk in theirs. So that's what I'm doing, honey. Breaking the stigma associated with mental health, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, and PTSD. That's what we're doing. That's what I'm doing. Why you sitting over there judging what you doing? I'm just saying. All right, family. I'll see y'all tomorrow.